was just dealing with somebody recently who told me major consumer packaged goods company. I'm not going to mention their name. Sure. But he told me it took 4 years for the company that was doing research for them and doing all that stuff to come back with an answer on the question they had and what they were trying to figure out. Now, it wasn't it was in a pharmaceutical industry, but 4 years. The whole world has changed in 4 years. You know, we can do it in minutes now. So how do you look somebody in the eye digitally? You respond to them by name. You read their profile. You learn something about them. Now, can you do it about everybody? No. But what you'll find, if you watch my Twitter feed, it's a little bit easier via Facebook. But Facebook doesn't allow the same kind of interaction at speed or in the same way that Twitter does. And possibly that Google Plus might start doing. But what I do on Twitter before I answer somebody is I look at their name. I don't just read their handle, because very often their handle might not be the same as their name. And not only that, if their handle says John J. something, and I look it up and their full name is Jonathan, and I answer them and say, thanks for the retweet, Jonathan, they know that I looked at their profile. Because how else did I know that? So right there, they're feeling, oh, this person took a moment to get to know me. I also read, remember, those profiles are very brief in Twitter. So I read them. People give you valuable information there. Avid skier, health food nut, love Jimi Hendrix. Well, those are things you can make a quick remark to. So instead of just saying, thanks for the retweet, Peter, I can say, thanks for the retweet, Peter. What's happening in Waterloo? Mm-hmm. You know, what's going on? How is it being a professor? Or, you know, how are the slopes today? Or, I love Park City. I mean, these are the kind of things I try to do. Now, I can't do it all the time. Sometimes I'll have so many people I have to respond to or answer to. It's difficult, and that goes to another thing. Reply and try to communicate with everybody that reaches out to you. Now, it can be difficult, but also maybe you decide that you want to have a more intimate relationship with your followers and not grow your following too large. So you keep it to a certain limit. I know a few people on Twitter that have 400 followers, and she's met every single one of them face to face. It's almost been like she's traveled, she's gone to events. Sometimes she won't even hit people unless she knows them. Now, I'm not saying that's the way to use it, but it's one way to use it where you stay completely engaged. But, again, looking people in the eye digitally, answering them by name, responding whenever they tweet you. If a conversation starts, try to finish it. I mean, granted, sometimes things can go on too long, but, you know, end it a certain way. I've learned to say things. If someone says, how are you? I might not say, I'm fine, how are you? I'll say, I'm fine, hope you are too. Why? Let's use semantics here. Because when I say, how are you, that's opening it up to an answer. Now, if they answer me, I feel compelled to answer them back. It keeps on going. But if it's something where I don't know if I don't see anything here, if it was just a quick hello, and I just say, hope you are too, that ends the conversation. It's a statement, it's not a question. And what I say to brands and people is that when someone poses a question, it requires an answer. When someone just makes a statement, you don't necessarily have to answer them. So let's take this into brand building and how a brand operates. So if somebody makes a criticism of your brand, you don't necessarily have to answer that unless it's directed to you as a question. Peter, I have a real problem with this. How can you fix it? To me, that requires an answer. Peter, your brand sucks. I don't necessarily have to answer that. And by answering it, I might be giving it a life of its own. Yep. So unless it's something where it's giving me more information or it's something I can solve or it's something really valuable for input or it's something that, if I'm getting that from 100 people, I better start listening to it. So I think that was kind of a long answer to a short question, but that's part of what I do. We could go on like this for hours, so.
Well, maybe we will, but you've got 54,726 followers, I noticed this morning on Twitter, and this type of relationship that you're describing, you feel that you've been able to build this up because of the approach that you take now?
I believe part of it is that I work very hard at building my following. I do some mechanical things. I follow people that I might have interest in what I'm doing, so they'll follow me back. I speak at a lot of events. People see me there. I do webinars. I do interviews like we're doing now. Yep. But I consider that part of relationship building. So I try not to say no to people like you because why? Because first of all, you're going to, not only are the people who are involved with you going to see me, but some tweets are going to go out going, hey, we contacted Ted Rubin and he was willing to talk to us. So that shows people that I'm willing to be interactive. I'm willing to help them. Another thing is I actually do try to help people. You know, and a big part of this, and it's hard to change this, that's the kind of person I am. I always have been. I love helping people. I love getting someone a job. I love leading them to the information they need. It gives me pleasure. But I also do it for mercenary reasons. Because if I help people, they're going to help me back. I mean, pay it forward. There's a reason the pay it forward movement or the concept means something to people. Because the more you pay it forward, the more people recognize that you're doing that, and the more apt they are to help you. So bloggers know they can call me at midnight when they're just sad about something. If I'm around, I'll pick up the phone. I can't do it all the time. I give out my phone number and email all the time via Twitter. And then I get one. You shouldn't be giving out your number. I have to tell you, the vast majority of people are tremendously respectful of it. They don't call me for no reason. I don't get put on email marketing lists, and if I do, they're going to my spam filter anyway, so I'm not seeing them. And what I've done is I've made people recognize that I'm available. And I'll tell you that people reach out to me all the time. And they tell me, Ted, I need to talk to you. I'd love to have coffee. I'd like to do an interview. And I say, sure, and then I never even hear back. Because a lot of people don't even follow up. So what does that mean? First of all, they ask, I said okay. Now they're out there talking about the fact that, I called Ted Rubin and he said he talked to me. And I hear a lot from people that I'm willing to give up time that others might not be willing to give up, that others want to charge for, that others want to be paid to do. And for me, it's all about interacting and building relationships, which I've been trying to do since I think I learned about this from my teachers and my coaches and my parents when I was young. And it's just paid for me.
So for the ordinary person in the street, they see a lot of people involved with social media, but they don't understand the value of it necessarily. So what would you say to people? You've got these 54,000 followers. This clearly has been of value to you. It's been worth the effort that you've put in to do this. You mentioned that if you help people, they help you. You form the relationships. But you clearly saw a value and are receiving a value from these relationships. And are you able to talk about that? What is that value? Why should people do this?
I think that if people don't understand the value of relationships, period, in the real world, they're not going to understand it digitally. So now, if we're talking about individuals, not brands, it's two different conversations. So let's talk about individuals, which I think is what you're talking about right now. Everybody knows it's good to have friends. But then it's also a proposition of what you're willing to give up to get what you want to get. So in order to be a good family member, to be a good friend, you've got to do things for others. You've got to be there for people. Very few people stay friendly with the guy that says no to everything, that's never available to help, that never wants to come out and join people. He stays at home, and maybe he has his one or two friends, maybe he has none. Well, that person will probably never recognize the value of social media, because they haven't recognized the value of relationships. But I would say the vast majority of us, whether it be when we were in college, out of college, at work, anywhere, are people that recognize that relationships come in handy. But then they have to also think about, are they willing to put in the work it takes to do it? Now, I say this to my daughters all the time. They look at me and they say, Dad, you have so many friends. And I'm trying to explain to them versus other people in their lives that might not have a lot of friends, or are always saying that people disappoint them or let them down. And I explained to them, I said, girls, there's two reasons for that. Number one is I don't have high expectations for people. I don't believe that people have to give me so that I give them back. I give because it makes me feel good and because I know I'm doing good for somebody. If you give with the expectation of getting something back in return, you're probably going to be disappointed a fair amount of the time. So I try to teach them that is number one. And then number two, I explain to them, and I mean this sincerely, I don't have a lot of friends because I'm just the nicest guy. I have a lot of friends because I work hard at it. I mean, there are people that I target to be friends with, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If I go into an organization or a company and I see a guy, Peter Carr, and I say, wow, that guy's smart, and he's nice, and people like him, I want to be his friend. What am I going to do? I'm not just going to sit in the corner and wait for him to come over to me. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say hello. I'm going to introduce myself. Maybe I'm going to ask him if I can buy him lunch. Maybe I'm just going to listen to things he says because he happens to mention he needs some extra copy paper, and I'll run over and get it. Or if you want to date somebody, a woman or a man, someone, whoever you're dating, you don't just walk up to them and go, hey, want to go out? You go on your best behavior. You try to get them to like you. You try to have a sense of humor. You do things. And even in good relationships, I mean, people talk about, there's so much divorce, marriages are hard, but anybody will tell you, if you want to keep a relationship together, whether it be marriage or just a friend, you have to work at it. You have to be there for people. So it's no different online. So what I would tell that person is, do you recognize, the first thing I would say is, do you think relationships in your everyday life are valuable? If they say no, I'm done. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince them about social. But if they say, sure, it's great to have friends, or my neighbor's really nice,